Hi, everybody. Welcome to Confirmation 2020 Fall, the first meeting. Stuck still here on video for most of us. It was fun to see some people in person as we started this. I do know that we're going to continue to do this online because I know we've had several people from our ninth grade group sheltering at home because of being quarantined. So, sorry, I know this is not as good as meeting in person, but we'll do the best we can. It is important that we cover some things because in just a couple weeks, we're looking at Confirmation Day.
I'm not apologizing because I know any kind of Nate is better than no Nate. So I bet you're all smiling right now.
Oh, anyway, as we prepare for this, we've said all along, as you make this vow in confirmation, actually it's called the affirmation of baptism, because that is what we're doing, that those promises that your parents made before you, most of you when you were little, when you were babies. Now you're going to be taking that responsibility for your faith on yourself as an adult, with the reality of, no one can have faith for you. So this is your choice. But that's okay.
Oh,
yes, yes.
Sorry, but so you guys know what a vow is? Everyone says a vow is a promise. But a vow is bigger than that, right? People take wedding vows, Priests make vows. I don't know, maybe, take vows when you become a minister.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Vows are big, right? You can promise to do the dishes after supper. But usually a vow is something, it's a bigger deal because it's something more important. And it's something that plays a bigger part in your life.
And whenever you take a vow, because it is a serious thing, it's really important to know what you're promising, what you're saying, what vows you're making. It's kind of like, when people tell you if you sign a contract, be sure to read the small print. You need to know what you're getting into. So for these sessions, just before confirmation, we will be talking about the vows that you're going to make. If you had been here, you would have seen our copies were yellow, but there's a sheet of how the worship service goes once the sermon is over and we get to the affirmation of baptism, the confirming part. But on the second page, don't think you can probably read it, or it'll probably be backwards if you can, but the vows are listed as a declaration of intent. And this is the promise that you're going to be making, and it's a promise before God, just like the promises your parents made when you were baptized, and just like Nate said, the promise that for most of you, the next one you'll be taking is when you get married, if you get married. So as we begin, since this is the first session, we just talked about, we're going to talk about vows in general. And so Nate's going to take over.
So we got a couple of clips that we're going to ask you to watch. Right? The links will be
in the words underneath us.
All right. Now the first clip is from a movie called Kingdom of Heaven. All right. It's in the Crusade days. Just let me set the stage because, in the castle, almost all the knights have been killed in battle. What you're left with is the prince and, the holy man and, servants, working men, old men, kids, right? And outside the gates, this giant army there, right? The enemy waiting to crash down the walls and conquer the city. And so when you watch that, there's a vow in there. And at the end of the vow, he asks a question. Someone asks a question. They say, does making a man a knight make him a better fighter? And much like the prince, we think yes, right? And so this is why we're using this clip, because if you think about yourself, right, you're going to make your vows, you're going to do it in front of everybody, and after the prayer that we say over you, right, you're confirmed, right? You're a confirmed member, an adult in the church. You said you want to try and live a life like Jesus lived, and so will that make you a better person in the world? We think yes. When it comes time to make decisions, when the battle comes, right, you're not just a person, you're not just a kid, right, but you are a Christian, a confirmed Christian, a Christian who stood up and said, I want to try and live the kind of life Jesus lived. We think that's going to make you a better fighter. In the second clip, it's from the Game of Thrones. Kind of a, I don't know how to describe it if you don't know it. You know, kind of a science fantasy.
Sword and sorcery.
Yeah, you know, set back in the Middle Ages kind of a look. And there's two young men, and they're going to join the Night's Watch. The Night's Watch is like this group of men that guard the border against the evil that lies beyond. But before you can join the Night's Watch, you got to take a vow. So they're going to go out, they're going to take their vow. And if you watch the clip, listen to the vows, there's two things we want you to notice. One is, by making those vows, there's no doubt they know what they signed up for, right? They know what they're agreeing to. And also, one of the older warriors says, right? Knelt down as boys, but you stand up as men. The Night's Watch. And it's much like the first clip. It's, you know, we think that's, we're talking about that. We think that's part of the confirmation service because, you know, you're gonna kneel down as whoever you are. Right? You're gonna rise up, a confirmed, right? A confirmed Christian, one who's said that you want to try and live the kind of life that Jesus wants you to live, right? So you kneel down, but you're rising up as someone different. So please watch the clips. A couple of my favorites.
You forgot the slap.
Wow. And that first clip, Kingdom of Heaven, also keep an eye on the slap. That's my part in the confirmation service. All right?
But why do they do it?
Why would they do it? So the prince makes the vow, and then he slaps one of the kids in front of him. And he says, and the slap is so you remember it. Right? We make a big deal out of the confirmation service because we want you to remember it. Right? Because if you remember it, it's gonna help you. You know, we could just send a text message, you know. You're confirmed. You know, but then it's lost, right? What's the big deal? What does it matter? But the slap is so you remember it.
Which brings it to the second thing that we did that first night and talked about, well, why is it such a big deal? You know, why is it a big deal that we take these vows? You know, why do you need to remember it? And if you all think back to seventh grade, when you were at the first orientation meeting for confirmation, I talked about the importance of the years that were going to be coming up as a time for you to ask the questions that you had, to try to figure out questions and problems and issues that you had been wondering about your faith. Because as you take those vows, we want you to mean them. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that there's going to be backsliding. It doesn't mean that you may forget them once in a while. But owning them, knowing them, talking about them, saying them in front of everybody else is a way for them to become a part of who you are. That even if you forget it for a while, it'll be in there somewhere. kind of picking at you. I mean, I still remember, I remember my confirmation day. I remember scenes from it. So that's one important thing. The reason we want you to take those vows and have it be a big deal is so that you remember what you're doing, and it helps you remember who you are. The other reason we want you to remember it is because once you are an adult, confirmed Christian, you are, the Bible uses the word an ambassador. You are a representative. Your life becomes an illustration of the God that you believe in. If you believe that God is in charge, that God wants everything better, that's the way you're going to live. If you believe that was just something you could say, and that life is really all about being rich and famous, that's how you'll live. The problem is too many adult confirmed Christians are living lives that say really the most important thing in their life is not God or God's will for the world, or caring for all of God's creation or one another. There's a lot of us that have bought into cultural messages that say it's all about me. If it's good, if it's good for me. And what that does to Christianity is it makes us look like a bunch of hypocrites. When you turn on the news and see a Christian yelling and screaming and ready to send people to hell for believing differently than they do, you are not seeing something that Jesus would do. But we're living in a world where people think that is what we believe. And so God calls us as adult confirmed Christians to live lives that paint a more honest picture of what God is, a picture of caring about other people, about making the world a better place, about maybe becoming a little more uncomfortable ourselves so that somebody else can have what they need. Follow Jesus. It's as simple as that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nope.
We're still working out
the kinks of talking together.
So, but everyone's heard of Gandhi, right? Gandhi's got this quote: I like your Christ very much. I do not like your Christians.
Because they are so little like Christ, is how it continues somewhere. Usually when we talk about this stuff, it's at a 9th grade overnight, which we didn't get to have. I'm still so sad about that, and hope we can make up down the line with some extra high school stuff, but that's something else. But usually at this one, we talk about this idea of living out our faith and realizing that the world is judging our God and our beliefs by the way that we behave. I often share a story. See, there's my parents in the Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 21. I'm not going to read it word for word, but it's basically summarized like this. A father who owns a vineyard walks up to the kids, maybe at the breakfast table, whatever, his 2 sons, and says, I need you to go work in the vineyard today. And the first one says, no, I got other stuff going on. I'm sorry, I know you might need me, but don't count on me. Count me out. But then later in the day, the son thinks about it, or maybe something opened up. He had time. So anyway, the older son who said no ends up going back to the vineyard to work. The second son said, oh, sure, Dad. I'll get out there and work and do what you need. But when the time came to actually do it, he didn't. Now, Jesus told this story, and then he asked his disciples, so which son did what his father wanted? Which son, was the loving, obedient child? And you know, obviously the answer was the first one, the one who said no, but worked anyway. Because, you know, what we do is more important than what we say. I'm not telling you you should go out there and not talk about being a Christian, but I'm saying first and foremost, you should act like one.
Well, think about it, right? Someone comes up to you and says, I want to be your best friend, right? Then later on, they stab you in the back. Someone doesn't say anything, you know, doesn't really say anything about being your best friend, but later on, they back you up, right? They help you out. They support you. You know, what do you think of the first person, right? Well, it's a hypocrite. Says one thing, does another.
And that's what the clips I'm going to ask you to look at are talking about. You know, it is much better in the eyes of the faith, you know, to act like a good person than to know all the right words. You know, we often say, and one of the clips is even called, you know, walk the talk. You know, the idea that, you know, if you're going to say it, you should be doing it. Otherwise, you're just telling people that Christians are a bunch of hypocrites.
Now, you know, we don't want to make it sound like you can either, like one or the other. You know, the best thing to do, right, is to
not promise,
is
because
to say things, is to say things to the world that you think God, Jesus would want you to say, and to do things, right? That God would want you to do, right? So that's the best.
Yep.
It's not like you have to be either, you know, one or the other.
Yes. The most effective illustrations of Jesus' love, the people that I've known that have been illustrations, are the ones who have actually, you know, you can look at their lives and you can see that they've learned and grown and made choices to put others first, to, you know, be less selfish, to care about other people. They've made those choices. And then they'll tell you, the reason I did it is because this is what I believe. I believe this is what God wants me to do, and I can't do anything else. That is like the perfect example of what we're supposed to be able to do. And we may not be able to do it every day. It may not always look that way, but you know, for those days that we do, it could make a big difference to the people whose lives that we touch. And so we're asking, I guess, this first round of confirmation of fall 2020 is just, as you're preparing to take these vows, think about what you're promising, and think about the confirmation, think about, you know, mean what you're saying. I will print what the vows are. That'll be underneath this one. It'll be underneath each of the sessions that we record as you prepare for confirmation. So you can kind of look at those promises. But as you do one last thing, please notice that the answer at the end of that, you know, when we say you have made public profession of your faith, do you intend to continue in the covenant God made with you in holy baptism? And then we list by these vows. The answer that each of you will say, that it's individual, is I do, and I ask God to help and guide me. It's not, oh, I do, I promise I'll be tough and I'll be perfect and I'll be strong. You know, basically you're promising to try to do your best to follow Jesus and to lean on God for the strength to do it when you feel like you can't do it. And then, you know, that's how we grow. When God helps us do things we thought we never could, it's like, oh, that's how it works.
And so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about each of the vows, right? Because what do we know from confirmation? There's always more to it than just the words, right?
So please do watch the videos listed below. You know, and ask yourself the questions when you watch the ones Nate was talking about. Also, when you watch the ones about walking the talk, it's pretty clear, but take the time to watch it. It shows what it looks like when Christians actually live out their identity. And in this day and age, that's not only important, it's kind of a survival tactic for the world at this point. We need to step up and be who we say we are. So, that being done, hope you're all doing well, whether you're at school or just watching a computer, or whether you can meet with us once in a while, or whether we're not going to see you for a while yet. But, other reminders. We do need to, even if you're doing all this virtually, you need, if you're in 9th grade and you want to be confirmed on October 11th at Ridge Run Park, we need to set up a meeting with you. So you can be the third little box, and we can have a little Zoom meeting if you can't come after, or be in here in person and stay to do it. Either way, it's fine.
It's 15 or 20 minutes, and you know us by now, right?
Yeah.
We're just going to sit and talk for a few
We're no more scary online than we are any other time.
Because I don't know, the glare from my forehead may be blinding you, so.
But you all take care, be safe, and shine, even in the hard times. See you next time. Bye-bye.
See you down the road.